So, y'all, it's your boy Herb.
And it's your girl Mo.
And welcome to season 2 of our soon-to-be world-renowned podcast, Young, Black, and Figuring It Out. What's good with you?
So, I can't lie. I love that. It sounds like a song now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just singing along with you.
Yeah. We right in there. And people probably, hopefully, when they listen to it, wherever they are, seeing it at the same time.
Singapore, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yo, okay. So that's a real thing. So you go look at the analytics, like who listening to what. Singapore on there. I'm like, what? How did they find this?
Wasn't that from like episode 1 for real?
Yo, and they've been locked in ever since. It was like Germany.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I rock with them over there.
We
Singapore.
appreciate y'all.
I'm trying to go. Let's link up. If whoever that is, hit us up.
That'd be a great vacation. I ain't gonna lie.
We'll pull up. What if that was just somebody vacationing and listening to it?
I still support it.
Okay, bet. Take us with you next time.
Right. I'm like, we need to hang out with
Okay,
you.
bet. We trying to do all that. But yeah, so you know how we do. An amazing time. We always like to start off, and it's not just a play on words, but it's also a really good question to ask.
True.
What did you figure out this week?
Ooh, I figured out boundaries are essential.
Oh, let's dive into that.
You look a little too excited. I'm not gonna
No,
lie.
I know. But that's dope. That's a dope concept. That's. I'm gonna put notes here. That's a podcast in the future.
It is a struggle for me personally, as we have discussed previously. I am terrible. I'm terrible at setting boundaries in my personal life. It's just not my skill set, and I am great at feeling like I'm the victim in situations where, like, why don't they understand? Why are they? It's just too much. When I have never set that boundary, I've never expressed that this is difficult for me, or this is a problem, or I am completely drained by this point, and I really don't have more to give to you. Right? I put in some efforts this week. I ain't gonna lie, and I can't lie. I felt so full by the time I need to expend any sort of energy toward anyone else. I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm actually mentally clear. Like, I really got the things I needed to get done. I put those priorities first. Yeah. And I handled my business, and I was like able to help other people. I'm like, good. And I got some rest. I mean,
so you putting up those boundaries. It probably in the beginning was challenging, a little bit scary.
Probably.
Okay.
Struggle.
And then you did it, and it's like, man, I feel restored.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was very necessary. And I think because I went through the mental anguish of, oh my gosh, I'm hurting them. They're going to be mad at me. Like, once I got myself past that feeling and that point and realized that I cater to everyone else's boundaries more than I would ever cater to my own. I'm like, dang, Mo, do you care about you? Like, do I want to feel happy and joyous and like refreshed and renewed again? I was like, you have to do this for you because you need it. No one else can be happy or like gain anything from you or benefit from like your help if you can't help yourself first.
I love that.
Like, all right. So yeah, once I got past, it took like a good day and a half for me to really work through it. But once I got past that, I was like, oh, I'm straight. This is it.
That's
this
tough.
isn't terrible.
That's
and
tough.
No one actually close to me disrespects my boundaries the moment I put them up. So I'm like, I've really just been doing this to myself.
Yeah, it's almost like the fear of setting boundaries is actually more difficult than actually setting them. Okay, I love that.
Thank you. Well, what about you? What did you figure out this week?
Here's the crazy part. I can't remember how I answered all these in season 1. So I'm like, some of this might be repetitive.
That's
but
okay.
The reason why is things that are repeated probably matter. So it's like, you know what? This is a real thing. Just this idea of like being a student is one of the most important things in life. Like, in all honesty. And like, I think in anything that we do in life, if you study it, if you're a student of it, you will be better at it. Yeah. You will know more about it. You will be able to access and navigate between those things a lot more naturally because you're studying that. And that's with anything in life. And I think because we are forced to be in school, and student isn't just classroom learning, right?
Of course.
But because we're forced to be in school, and then for me, going to college and get my master's, I almost started taking for granted this idea of built-in learning all the time. And so, like, now that I'm out of that, like, man, you know what? That experience of constantly learning and being challenged is such an amazing experience that if you don't force that in, like build that into your life, you can miss out on so much. And that can be in any realm.
Right.
you know, and I never was a great student in school, right? I honestly wasn't. Like, if there was, this is what I did. I got great at playing the game of school, right?
Yeah.
So we had to do this reading. I'm like, bet. How can I skim this to know enough to be able to get through? I mean, just being real with
like
you.
the athlete in you, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna figure out the best strategy to get to the. Okay, I got you.
How I'm gonna get there? How I'm gonna make this work? And I became great at playing the game of school, but I didn't become a great student. And now I'm really realizing, oh, that's key.
Yeah.
If I want to be amazing at wealth and wealth building, study that. Cool.
Tell us more about the posture you have to take in order to do that, though.
To be a student?
Yeah.
It's multiple ways. I think you have to, first, if you're learning from other people, it's humility.
Yeah.
Because you can learn from anybody in any situation. In all reality.
Literally.
You can learn in those things.
You can learn from children, y'all.
Yeah. Yo.
Yeah.
Huge, right? You just got to have a listening posture.
Yeah.
A spirit of humility, right? But then the other part of that is if any type of learning, but especially what I'm saying, is like I want to go sit in a class, or I don't really like online classes, but I want to do something around that. I want to read and whatever.
Don't knock them online, yo. They be saving me.
Man, I don't love them just because I don't like self-guided online classes, like the ones where you just reading through, or they doing the videos and all that.
I want.
Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to do this. It's so easy to get up out of here.
Yeah.
But the posture you have to take really is like a recognition that there's more to learn, or that you have to learn. Like, I mean, because there's books on. I was listening to somebody speaking about this. There's books on how to attract a relationship, how to be better at things around the house, how to manage your finances, how to be a better friend, how to be a better husband, how to be a better podcast. It's stuff out there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But you got to study that. It's like, man, I got to dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and there's some things happening in my life, Money Mo, that I'm transitioning into that I need to be a student now.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
I love that, because I was like, you really have to let go of your pride and any sort of ego. And I'm like, for anybody out there who feels like it's not working, I'm not grasping it, sometimes you might have to do that self-check and be like, am I letting my pride get in the way of this right now? Like, yeah, probably. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Be a sponge. Soak it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do that.
I support this. Yes.
I'm going for it.
I'm with it.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
Hey, you feel me? So that's what I figured out. And I'm going to see how that play out over this week.
Can't wait.
Me either. So, but today, I think we got a really dope conversation.
Look at me trying to run from it. Yeah.
She's there, Rhonda? She's there?
Track star. I was like, why you do me like this?
You couldn't leave me hanging. You had to do it.
It was the face. It looked so innocent. I was like, I got you.
Hold me down. But yeah. So today's episode is really diving into some things that actually you got to be a student to be able to do that. You got to have some boundaries to be able to do this. You got to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
But it's really hitting on the idea of overcoming struggles, right? The struggle, and it's real. And what that does for you, how do you overcome struggles?
Yeah.
Just because that tension, I think, is always going to be a part of life.
Very true.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's just I think it's going to be such a good conversation because you have to talk about that. This dude, Les Brown, he said, you either it was a great quote. He said, you either coming out of a problem, going into a problem, or just getting out of a problem. Yeah. Facts. That's life, right? And so, yeah, let's dive into that.
He's been through.
What?
Les Brown, what? Yeah. I am, sir.
Let's dive into all
You know when there's just like a myriad of struggles you can pick from?
That you can tap into?
It's like, where am I emotionally capable of diving into?
Yeah.
That's really the question, right?
Let's talk about this. That's context. Let's put some framework around struggle.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that, right? And how, like, you in your therapist realm. Yeah, let's dive into this. Like, do you feel like struggle is a necessary part of life?
I don't want to say necessary as much as inevitable. Like, there's really no running from it. And so, but based off that, working through struggle is a necessary part of life, right? Like learning how to actually fight past your feelings of a struggle and not just cope, because there's so many ways of coping that can be very negative. Like, you could cope through anything in the worst ways possible.
Right.
It's like actually learning to build skills that will help you overcome those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and then struggle is very subjective. So, like, what is a struggle for me may not be a struggle for you,
Right.
you know, but it doesn't take away the value or the importance or the pain behind that, right? It's like it just looks very different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Yes. I mean, I almost think like, I think struggle is necessary. I think the way I'm looking at it is you have to endure something in order to actually grow.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, I think we put too much emphasis on, I mean, honestly, especially the narrative in the Black community, right? And one thing I hit on first is struggle has been a part of our identity, especially Black Americans, African Americans. Like, that's been a part of our identity.
Yeah.
And because of that narrative, there's almost like a honoring of the person who overcomes struggle.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, a lot of times, like, we almost immerse ourselves in this idea that you have to struggle or have struggled to be successful.
That is also accurate.
You know what I mean? Like, we dive in that.
Dang, you
and
right.
I don't know if that's the case. At least not to the extent that I think we make it.
True. Because you've noticed people be like, oh, his daddy gave him this, or he didn't have to struggle, and da-da-da. Like, I had to struggle. And then almost people... I've played into this narrative before where it's like, nah, my kids got to know what struggle is. Like, they can't just be given everything they want. And it's like, there's a difference between spoiled and then, like, purposely putting hindrances in front of others.
Yeah.
It's like, some of this is not necessary.
No.
Like, this didn't help grow or build you. It made you maybe tougher. Maybe it made you hardened. Maybe it made you jaded. You got a guard up. I got a heavy guard up because of what I've been through.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to have to go through that too. Like, why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we do that. You're right.
And not only that, so to go along with that too, actually, is, I'll just give an example. Like, we do that, and then it's like we almost miss the opportunity to help us grow and expand as a family, as a community, as a culture.
True.
So, example, I know a family who's like the pops in the family made it through, successful. And was like, you know what? But I had to get it out the mud. So my kid first car, I had to do this. I was driving leave it to them. You know them older. I was driving a Flintstone with, you know what I'm saying? I was yabba dabba doing on the street. Right?
I can't.
So, and it's like, okay, cool. So, you know what? So my kid's gonna go through the same thing. Right? Born and kid, a beat up hoopty. Had the money to get a nice whip, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, like, this isn't safe. Yeah. Like, the car not even safe. So to prove this point, you gonna put your people in jeopardy.
True.
And it's this, and you hear this saying all the time, what don't kill you make you stronger. That's like a nod or a bow to the struggle. However, what we do miss sometimes is what don't kill you can actually traumatize you.
Yeah.
Or hurt you to a point where you can't it's like irreparable.
Yeah.
So mentally, physically, emotionally, us trying to make people endure the struggle, is actually, I think, having a negative effect.
True. It's very counterproductive. It's like all of a sudden we're damaged. What's wrong with you? Like, you've hurt me. Like, I am not able to do. I have literally been traumatized right now. I don't want to drive because of that almost accident that could have happened in that hoopty. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. Yeah. Son. Yeah. And no one actually takes that as like something real. It's like, you just whining, you complaining, you so spoiled because what? You did this to me.
So let me ask you, you mentioned struggle is relative.
Yes.
Right? That's such a great point. So do you think there is probably some negative connotation or some negative consequences, whether it be unintentional probably, from like when parents or older generation or whoever say like, and I've done this to my younger brother, dang, I had to go through this. Yeah, almost like what does that do to somebody's experience or mindset?
So like I've seen it. I'll use my sister. I've seen it with my sister where it's like not necessarily having to go through the same path because we're just different people. So we went through different paths and feeling less than now because like, well, I didn't have to struggle the same way, and almost like wanting to choose a struggle in order to feel equated, right? It's like, No. Please be the dream and the hope that we didn't get. Like,
Absolutely.
please go out there and just fly freely. Like, no one's holding it against you, because sometimes you just have no other choice.
Yeah.
But when you have the choice, don't you struggle? It ain't worth it.
Nah.
I'm mad at you now, because that looked like I recall the moments when it wasn't worth it.
And times where I opted that way. It's like, nah, that's not.
I'm mad I know you.
It's like, bro, actually, nah, this is a like, that's not what's up. On the flip side of that is the struggles. When I look back, it's like, okay, that did develop me, right? Even though, like, the smart person learns from their mistakes, the wise person learns from the mistakes of others, 100%. And so I'm leaning on being more wise now. Like, you know what? Nah, that didn't look fun. I'm not going to take the same L you just took, right?
Right.
But some of my own personal struggles have, I think developed what I got now. And who I am now.
Like, it sounds like we are alluding to that. So please share.
Oh, dive into it?
Like, we already right here, ain't we?
Thank you. We questions. I appreciate that. Yeah, we talking about that, bro. All right, bet. So yeah. No, I think I can lead to many a struggle. So like, I'm gonna go to. So for example, I'm gonna go to something that really helped develop me and help me make sense of things that I do now, right? And choosing a struggle is actually not a win. So, back, and I've told this story, but I didn't give all the details to the story. So back in 20 whatever, I was in this decision making point. I think I talked about this on like the first episode when I had went to North Carolina and had to make a decision about, am I going to take this job?
This had to be 2015.
At the school I was working out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no. This was 2017. Because remember it was after I was trying not to get no date so people ain't aging me. But it was 2017. So I had you ain't care about that. See, I'm gonna tell y'all. So look though. So I'm like, all right, cool. Went out there, made the decision, said I'm not gonna take this job at Roberts, which I think was honestly the best decision for me at the time with the relevant information I had.
Yeah.
Okay. So I made that decision based on a plan with one of my homeboys, right? If you're listening, you know who you are. So he like, look, I'm like, look, bro, we gonna take this leap. We gonna go ahead. We gonna link up. And I was in Rochester at the time. Link up in Rochester, and we gonna move in. We gonna make this plan. Then we gonna move to North Carolina and kind of get into this house flipping situation. Yeah. I'm like, all right, bet. So I'm living in an apartment at the time, right? And was waiting on bro to move on up. So we getting closer to the date that bro moving up. And I'm asking him like, yo, you sure you coming? Like, yeah, I'm gonna be there. You sure you coming? Sure you coming? Sure you coming? Cool. So I'm talking to my pops. Pops like, yo, dog, I don't think bro gonna be there. I'm like, nah. And so at this time I'm living with a roommate, and my roommate was leaving. So he had left, and I had banked on like that next month, bro moving in.
Yeah.
Right? So we getting close to the time where brother moving in. I'm like, hey, you still coming? And eventually I just asked, I said, bro, you're not coming, are you? And bro was like, well, this, that, and the third happened. So at that time, I had just said no to a job that was, going to put me in a financially better situation.
Yeah.
Than I would have been in. I didn't have too much money. So I had some money saved, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm in the bind, right? So now I got this apartment that I can't pay the whole rent for. I was barely being able to pay the half at the time. So I'm like, man, I'm in a tough spot right now. So I'm like, all right. And then on top of that, my younger brother moved in with me because we coming up on summer. He moved in to stay with me for like X amount of months.
Yeah.
Okay?
I do remember this, yes.
Brother move in. I'm in a tough spot. I take a job at a hotel. I ain't gonna told you, I was capping the people at the time like, yeah, I'm assistant manager. But I really wasn't. I was like the front desk dude, like whatever. I'm like, yo, that's why I did this. Because people looking at you, I just get my manager's like, oh yeah, you should be. I'm like, oh, I'm assistant manager. I'm practically running the joint. No, I'm not. Yeah. So this would have way me come in the struggle. During that time working a job, I'm not going to lie to you. It's like, okay, I got my master's. I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. I just turned on this other job. Now I'm working, making and there's no offense to this, but this is just how my mindset was. Minimum wage, and I'm supporting myself, my brother, and I'm paying this rent I can't afford.
Yeah.
Struggling. Yeah. Struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, struggling. Mentally, too, because you just don't expect to be in this position.
Right.
So, I remember one time, this is a combination of the struggle, how struggle was. I'm coming up to this point where it's like, yo, we running out of money. And this is like, I'm paying rent. I'm paying rent on this last point, right? I went and took a deposit out the bank. This was the last little bit of money I had, like, to pay this rent. So I'm in a house, and my little brother had went somewhere. He had came back. He took my car, came back. He walked in the house. And I got the rent money out, and I'm counting rent money to make sure I got all the rent money. So he walked in, and at this point, he used to us struggling. Like, yo, he walked in, like, I see all that money. He's like, yo, what's that? And I'm like, all of it. Yo, this is all of it. Like, this is all the money we got, B. Like, this is it. And at that point, I'm like, yo, I'm really, like, that is, like, at that point, it's like, yo, I'm really about to be homeless. I can't afford the rent. I'm about to have to move back. Like, the shame.
Yeah.
I'm about to move. I got my master's. I'm doing all these big things at school, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm about to have to move back in with my people.
Yeah.
And it's like, but in that moment when he walked in, like, what is that? I'm like, all of it? I can't lie. Like, that was the combination of this is where we are right now.
You know how I didn't know it was that bad? Because you wouldn't share. I had no clue until well after that's what's happening. And me being all like happy-go-lucky when we link up and chilling, me, you, and your brother, I'm like, yo, y'all hungry? Had a whole sub.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
A whole foot sub, and I just couldn't eat all of it. There was like 2 full pieces left. I'm like, yo, y'all hungry? They're like, nah, we good. Not knowing that, they struggling right now. And I'm like, son, that's go back to like, if your pride is getting your way, just lay it to the side. Ain't nobody need it.
Yo, but you know what's crazy? I learned through all that struggle, and this was kind of like the point of that story.
It's my bad.
It was mad points, but that's real though. Like, honestly, throughout all of that, there's multiple lessons you can take from that story. But when me and Tori was like, we was in like hearty laughter when I said like, that's all of it. Cause it was such a real moment. Like, yo, he's like, what's that? Like, where you get this money from? I'm like, yo, this is all of it. This is all the money we have, bro. Like, it's about to go to rent. And we just laughed. And in that moment, I'm like, you know what's more important than money? It's community, bro. Family. Like, cause it really, like, if that was me by myself, I don't know how I would have dealt with that. Like, Terrell being up there for that time period, really, honestly, like, was a blessing. And so it put in perspective, like, what is, like, struggle, that's going to happen to anybody. And I think in that time frame, it's like, all right, first it's like being able to laugh through this pain. Shout out to Kevin Hart. Legit. Laugh at the pain. But honestly, it's like, yo, family.
Yeah.
Or like, it ain't got to be blood, but like that was key.
Yeah.
He helped me get through that.
Absolutely.
And then a blessing came from. We can go back to that story later, but yeah, that hit. Yeah. That was tough. That was tough. Real. That was like, okay.
I think I heard about it come 2018 is when I knew what was going on.
After.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. We held it down. We were struggling. Yeah.
Proud of you.
Appreciate that.
Son.
I was out there.
Me? Oh. I mean, if we want to talk about like subjective and how different like struggle can look, this is when I'm like, I don't want to do it. Y'all know if you listen to season 1 how I discuss my weight, right? Like,
I know where we're going with this.
I discuss how it's not even my weight as much as my perceived weight. So just how I looked was the biggest issue, right? In my family growing up, aunts, uncles, parents, it was just a problem, right? All the time, siblings, it didn't matter. And I think it had to have been close to the same year, right? You and I had a conversation. And at this point, to give full context, I was working at my job maybe, 4 or 5 years? And when I started, I was young. I was like 23, really, 24. And so it was like your first big time job. And it's like I'm a school counselor, so I took a role that had been there before. Like, there was no established role to follow. I'm trying to make it up as I go. And the amount of stress. And it's like when you don't, people tell you work-life balance. Yeah. I didn't have like family here like that. It was just me. And so I was just devoted fully to my job. And I mean, not only did I put on like 60 pounds. I was like, I had a scalp issue. It was just like all this stress was taking over my body, right? To the point where my coping mechanisms, like I said, they could be negative, was getting my Chinese food every Friday night with like a family size bag of M&Ms. And I'm there living my best. This is what I thought.
Even though that do sound good, but yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, I was happy. I was miserable.
Ooh, happy but not healthy?
Yeah. Yeah. But I didn't know. I had back pain like all the time, and I was always trying to crack my back, and it never alleviated. My feet was a hot mess. My asthma that's how I found out I had asthma. Like, my allergies were heavy and crazy, and I was just like miserable.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. And you and I had a conversation.
Talk here right now.
Where I think you called me and I don't know what brought that on. I don't know where that came from, but I like to think that God was talking through you, right? It was like, yeah, let me tell Mo about herself. And you had said in the most loving and kind way, you were just like, Mo, you say you want all these things. You say you want love to come to you, but how if you don't show that you love yourself? And for whatever reason, that rocked me. I was like, yo, you right. And I really wasn't. I wasn't putting a boundary for myself. Like, I put zero self-care into my life, right? It was like me, Netflix. And I lived alone. It was me, Netflix, my Chinese food, and my M&Ms.
Yeah, you did live alone at that point.
I lived fully alone.
I remember that.
And I did not realize, like, we talk about sometimes when your home or your house or your state of mind isn't right, everything around you just looks a mess, right?
Yeah.
My laundry, clean, just everything was just out of place. Like, I wasn't okay, but I did not recognize it. Yeah. And when you said it, it sparked like, I'm unwell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sick. And I was getting sick twice a year, every year. I was getting pneumonia. Like, I was getting sick. It wasn't just like,
I got a common cold.
Yeah, I was like, I got hit with the flu. Every time there's a flu, I had the flu, and then I had pneumonia.
Thank God. Thank God that before COVID came through.
But legit. Yeah. And I was like, dang, I'm struggling out here. One time I was at work, my principal looked at me, and I was like, hey. She's like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. She's like, you don't look fine. I looked sick, and I couldn't tell. I was like, this is how far my mental was from my physical, right? They just were not aligned at all. Yeah. And so when you said that, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, help me. And you gave me like a list of things to like, you need to get a trainer. You need to get a scale. These certain steps. You need to take your measurements. And then it's time to start putting your health first. And I was all gun-ho because I'm like, okay, I can do this. When I tell y'all, I never told y'all, right? I hate working out. I hate it. Why did I hate it? It hurt. It wasn't even just like, things are heavy. My feet always hurt. My back always hurt. Everything was so painful and uncomfortable. And then I felt like people could see me. I was like, oh, and I'm used to being viewed in such a negative light. Like, why are you so fat? Why are you so big? What's wrong with you? So I'm just like in my head, overconscious, and struggled with the idea. So you're like, you should get a personal trainer because you need someone to keep you accountable. I said, bet. I found someone, and I'm like, oh, I only got to work out once a week. I can do it. And I mean, when I tell y'all, I was looking for any excuse not to go. Anytime I was like, oh, I can't make it. Oh, no problem. Anytime I was like, oh, I forgot my sneakers. Wonderful. But I went once a week, slowly but surely. And I didn't realize there was so much more to it than just the physical acts, right? It was such a mental wall there. And it broke down and like broke apart so many parts of me where I realized like I refused to go without an oversized hoodie on because I couldn't show my body. No one could see me, Lord. I didn't want to see myself. Anytime I could look in the mirror, I was just like, ugh, it was disgusting to me. You know what I mean? And I had to work through the fact that it's like, no, you are capable. And I was lifting weights and I'm like, oh, I'm strong. I can do this. It was flabbergasting. I'm like, I'm able to do things. I had my asthma pump just in case. I'm like, I can do stuff. And it started to build my confidence, right? Yeah. So I started moving. I was like, I want to do 2 times a week. So I would go in 2. I was like really on it. I was like, okay, working out. And then it came a point where I was like, I'm ready for 3 times a week. And I outgrew that space at that time where you and I had a discussion like, it's time that you need more. And I was like, at this point, I need to get my nutrition in order because as much as I'm working out, my weight didn't change. I was like still up there with my 60 plus pounds, can lift things now, but not healthy still. It's just like my weight kept like roller coastering. I kept doing these crash diets and stuff, and I'm thinking I'm making strides. No, go ahead. And I wasn't making no strides.
No, I was gonna say, and keep going with the story, but at that point, you had worked to a point where, like, mentally or emotionally, you're in a better space. But then it was time to change gears into like, all right, now let's be healthy.
Yeah.
And so you got through like some of that mental, emotional struggle and peel back some of them layers. But then it was like, all right, now let's transition into this next phase of,
which I didn't realize was a step.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, because of this, I need more now. It's like, oh yeah, okay, all right, I can do this. And I found what strong, confident women out there. Shout out to my trainer, Hassan Robinson.
My guy.
Right? Because when I went to work with him, his whole attitude was like, yeah, I'll show you how to do functional workouts and get you to a point where you're able to do them yourself. I was like, you don't want to keep people? He was like, nope. You should be able to want to do this on your own and like get the confidence to go out there and handle your business. I'm like, okay. And then he would talk about nutritional stuff, and I started learning, right? I started to be a student. The theme.
We ain't mean to do that, but that came full.
Legit, because there was so many.
I see you.
There was so many ideals I had that didn't match. Where I'm like, oh, I need a waist trainer. Oh, I need to do this, this juicing. I need to do all these things to get to a place where I thought I'd be physically acceptable to people, right? And come find out, none of that was doing anything for me.
Absolutely.
It actually jacked me up more, where I'm like, the moment I did it, I lost some weight, and then I put on more weight the next time. It's like, oh, this doesn't work. And he would be like, no. Honestly, you just need to like eat accordingly, like eat in a balanced way and burn off any excess. I was like, oh, really? And then the moment I started doing that, I was like, I can do the two together. I have never in my life been able to do nutrition and work out. Ever. And that was a slow grow. It took probably like a year before I got to the point where I can handle doing nutrition and doing my workouts together, right? And the moment I did that, the moment I was like, I can do this. I am in control, right? The struggle can't take over me anymore.
The struggle can't take over me anymore.
It can't make me think differently anymore. It can't make me think that I'm less than somehow. It can't let me like believe that if I walk into a space, all people will see is my fatness. That no longer exists in my brain.
Yo.
But when I tell you the work it got together.
Yo. That's fire. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you a quick little clap for your story out here. We love it here. Yes. Nah, that's dope. And I love how you said like the struggle can't overtake you anymore. Because Nipsey Hussle, y'all, is one of my favorite artists, rappers. R.I.P. the neighborhood Nip. He got this line. He said, never let a hard time humble us. And so what he meant by that was, even when things get tough, get rough, like, those not going to break our spirit.
Yeah.
And those are things that I think you get from some type of struggle, right? Going through some type of adversity. Because, yeah, it's two things I think you can, it's multiple things, but two things I know that you have to do for sure in struggle in order to have some type of growth or success on the other side. Is one, figure out what pain point is this touching, right? Because if there wasn't a pain point, it wouldn't be a struggle.
That's true.
Because even with me in my financial situation, you would think, well, anybody would. No, some starving artists who, but oh, that would be nothing to them. Oh yeah, I just live off the land. I ain't tripping.
Yeah.
But for me, the pain point is because of the upbringing and being, evicted multiple times as a teenager and preteen. Financially, that's a pain point for me.
Yeah.
Like money, like that's a thing.
Yeah.
So that had me in a tough spot. So like, okay, that register, okay, that's a pain point. And then I think the other thing is like, what lesson can I learn from this about what I need to do in the future? How can I then implement that? And for sure, I think for you, it's like, yeah, that's the lesson. Oh yeah. That came out of that.
Absolutely. Like putting myself first for my health is the most important thing. I was like, self-care. And now working out and actually eating appropriately. And that does not mean I eat my snacks, y'all. That don't mean I don't get my chocolate. You feel me? Like,
when you need to. You feel me?
But I don't overeat it as if that's all I can eat. You know what I mean? Like that's just not, it's not my life no more. It's like,
why? You put some boundaries up for yourself. Shout out to coming back on what did you learn this week.
But seriously, honestly, I track it in a non-crazy way. I'm just like, let me make sure I know what I'm eating.
I love that.
I keep myself accountable to me.
And it's like when them things come back full circle, you have to you got to act on those. So I had it had came to a point. I'm gonna go ahead and share this story too about learning the lessons, right? So just recently, no, not too long ago, I made a transition from where I was working to where I'm going now, right? And so it came to a point where it's like I knew I was exiting where I was. I wasn't 100% sure where I was going, but I knew I was leaving. And so I had an opportunity come to me that was financially a dub. Can't lie, right? Opportunity wise, as far as networking growth, and lastly was I don't know nothing about the industry, so it's a learning opportunity, a chance to be a student again, right? So while I was making that decision, I had that decision on the table, then I had another decision to say like, you know what, no to that and where I was, and just kind of like go risk it because my uncle lives out west. Shout out to Uncle Tom. Like, yo, come out here with me. You know, we can figure it out. So I was just gonna, risk it all.
I recall.
Let me go bust this move, right?
Yeah.
And so I was trying to work through this, and I was obviously struggling with this decision. And so I remember I asked you, I'm like, yo, like help me, get clarity on this because I'm struggling right now, right? To figure out what I should do. And you thought about it. It's quiet for a second. You said, well, as I'm thinking through this, you've done this before. And before you could say anything else, I'm like, yo. That 2017 moment when I said no to having this amazing opportunity, which at the time felt like the right decision, right? And then I had to struggle. It's like, yo, I did that once. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I need to learn from this experience and that struggle. It's like, nah, I'm not going to say no to this amazing opportunity right here that I can go make a move. It's like, no, I did that already. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like that struggle gave me that lesson. And thankfully, you was there to help me understand that process right there. But it's like you have to learn from those and not just learn, but then
apply.
Implement that.
Yeah.
Apply that. Because those things are there for a reason. They're there to teach you.
Right.
And it's like if you can learn it or recognize the lesson, but if you don't actually apply it, it did nothing for you.
Right. Awareness is step one. Implementation comes after that.
You know?
You're right.
Listen. Tough. And that's honest. I mean, honest to God, those things are key.
Yeah.
When it comes to struggle.
Tough. That was great. And for anyone who might use dub as a L, dub in this case means a W, a win.
Oh, a win. Yeah. We are all different slangs. People from New York City, people from Detroit. That's a dub.
I got a lot of flack one time for saying that. They're like, what is that? What are you talking about? That's an L. It's like, first of all, it means W.
Yeah, when did a W become an L?
But I ain't mad.
Who made this up? But yeah, yo, that's key. And I don't know. And you know what else too though? Staying down on those struggles, like actually staying the course. Those things matter. Because like there is some wins. And I'm reading this book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah. And he talks about like luck. And he said how luck is really about people who are prepared, good stewards, and the opportunity comes. It seems like luck was like, no, they've worked and earned that and done these things. So to continue on with the story I was just telling, right when I was about to be like, all right, I gotta go back. Right, my where I worked Roberts. Shout out to Ruth Logan. She like, hey, she's a VP for I'm gonna be giving all her business, but she worked as a VP. And she was like, yeah, her address is actually nah. But she was like, hey, and this is how timing works out. She's like, hey, listen, we need like a temporary RD situation, right? We don't necessarily need a full-time RD. We need somebody to actually be in the building who's responsible, who can kind of, monitor the students there. I know it's probably a big jump for you because you've been on your own for a while, but would you want to like maybe live in the dorms? Like, don't laugh at me, right? But you want to live in the dorms and kind of be in that situation? She don't know I'm about to be out. Yeah. She, what?
You make me cry, y'all.
She don't know I'm about to be moving back to Detroit.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Son.
And the universe pulled that off? Crazy.
You were such a blessing for them because I remember afterwards she had mentioned it and she's like, we're just so happy and thankful that he's able to, like that he's here.
Yo.
And I'm here like, yo, you don't, and I remember crying in front of her like, you don't even know what a blessing that was for him too. And it's just like, and I mean for me, I'm over here thinking selfishly like, he's here, y'all, he's staying.
He ain't homeless. But nah, like that, those things, staying true to those things.
I'm mad, don't judge me.
Yes, all right.
I'm so sorry.
Empath, is that what it's called?
I am an empath, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Cried up. But yeah, and honestly, for your journey too, with the fitness and health, like staying down. Like, you could have been got out of there. You could have been quit out of there.
You right.
I know multiple times, but that's like, yo, look. It
was not easy, but learning the science behind it made it easier to like logically work through. It's like, okay, there is a reason and a purpose. I'm not just out here, willy-nilly and anything, but like recognizing that there's more, or actually less. It's like things are a lot more simple than sometimes we make it.
Yeah.
Recognizing that maybe I shouldn't put all these barriers in front of myself and just try and see where it gets me. And I'm like, shout out myself, 30 pounds down later. You feel me?
I see
like,
you, squad.
I ain't mad at that.
Gang, gang.
Yeah, we got more to do, but that's okay.
You're going to keep going with it.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, and you know what else, too? People might be listening thinking.
It's about to be my last episode. I promise you.
People might be listening thinking, man, what in the world are you talking about?
Greatness.
Facts. But listen, we might be right.
We might be wrong.
But at the end of the day, we just young, black, and figured it out.